Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today is a very, very special video because I am doing this in collaboration with a lot of other Christian authors here on YouTube. As of the time of recording this, I don't have all of the names and information, but I'll add that in when I'm editing this video. So shout out to every single author involved. Basically, we just wanted to do a special collaboration and kind of help grow our YouTube channels together and just be writers together and have fun. So let's get right into this. So today I thought I would take you on a journey and show you what writing with me is like. So basically this is Write With Me. And I wanted to show you guys my routine and like writing and like what writing with me is like. And then we're going to write an action scene today. So I'm going to break down what's going on in my book. It's still pretty early on in the story, so this won't have any spoilers in case you're concerned about that. And I hope I'll have some pretty music and maybe some, you know, scene pictures or something. Hopefully I can figure all that out. But I hope you guys enjoy this as I take you on a journey and write with me. So usually, as you can see according to my screen, it's 7:21. It is June 4th for me. So I came in here at 7 o'clock and I edited a chapter for my client because I do edit professionally. So that was basically step one in my routine. I always want to get editing done for my clients first. And usually I try to only take one client at a time. At the moment, I only have one, so I get their books edited first. That is the most important thing to get done, my high priority. And then after that, I just write. So the book that I'm currently writing is called Forge of Silver and Moonlight. It is a book part of the Thrones of Mythreach series, which is set in the Mythreach Legends novels. So that includes the Mystical Companion series, which I call the Chronicles of Warhaven. That includes Shadowfall. I don't have that series named yet. It's a massive story world with like 8 or 9 continents, and so this takes place on one particular continent called Shieldhaven. So I've built different maps of Shieldhaven last night. I've had a lot of fun. I made this one last night and named all of the places, so I'm very, very proud of this map. So yeah, okay, I'm writing. I thought like I was talking about my maps. I was on a tangent anyway. So moving on from the tangent. So real quick summary of what's going on. I have 2 main characters. Ganali is a silver elf, and she's my female character. And then Kiander is a Grovian. He's now a werewolf. So Grovians are kind of like the human race in this continent. And right now he's a werewolf, so he is a gladiator, and Ganali has leased him out, which means that he's still owned by his owner, but she gets to have him walk around with her. She gets to take him to different places. It's also her responsibility to set up his fights. And so she just set up a fight for him at an arena. And last night I wrote a chapter where they kind of settled in. He has to pay for all of his own stuff from his earnings. And so he couldn't afford a really fancy room. So they're just basically, they settled into their cell. They talked, got to know each other, all that stuff. I did film that, but I didn't feel like being on camera last night because I just wanted to be in my PJs and just write, basically. So I did screen record, so I may do a time lapse of that. If I do, I'll link it here, or do it here. But that was just the establishment of them getting settled in. So tonight, I did write to a scene cut. I didn't finish the chapter. Normally I try to finish out the chapters, but tonight is the actual fight that she set up. So he's going to be fighting, and I may do a scene leading up to that where they're wandering around the arena. I did design the arena in a program called Dungeon Alchemist. If you look here on my screen, Dungeon Alchemist here. I did film myself doing that for my vlog, so if I have that video out, I will put it down in the description below, because I wanted to introduce you guys to Dungeon Alchemist. So I did design that, so there's a time lapse of me designing the arenas. So here is the arena on a smaller scale. I didn't do all the rooms, and their room is actually not even in here, but so I know kind of establish where they're gonna go. They're going to be in here waiting for him to come out in a fight, and she's going to have to go back around through here and come in with the audience, and they're probably going to be walking in here too. This is a door that leads into this part where these are the vendors specifically for gladiators, because gladiators have separate vendors as opposed to these vendors where the regular people can come in and buy stuff from. It's a little bit bigger than just 3 of them, but this kind of gives me a little bit of an idea of the structure. So I'm going to keep that minimized so I have access to that. And then I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint slide with all my characters, built for this. So I have 22 characters built so far, and these are just like side characters. Most of these aren't even in the book yet, but I wanted both of them to have their families settled. These are actual commercial images that I use, that I will be using as their professional images. I used a program called Lexica for that. I'll have a link in the description below. It is amazing. The subscription for it is totally worth it. So yeah, so that kind of gives me the visuals and all the information I need on the characters I need to pull up. So I keep that minimized, and we're just gonna pull this up and pull up the book and start writing. As you can see, it's, I don't know why I think it thought I left up. So my typical structure is normally I will be starting at a chapter, because I try to write a chapter a day. Last night the chapter was already 3,353 words, and I got to this and I was like, it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, I want my dinner, and I just don't have it in me to write this action sequence. So, but essentially you get the idea that I write and I have notes. I do something here so that way the structure, my formatting can stay good, because if it's a chapter heading or like this where it's a scene cut, I want a line in between that and my where I'm going to be writing at, and sometimes it'll get messed up. I also want to make sure that it's like lined up on this side well, so I just write something here, and so when I start writing I'll just go in and, you know, delete that and start writing, and then underneath that I'll have my notes for the chapter, so that as I write I'll start deleting notes that, okay, if I write this part, if I write that part, I'll just start deleting stuff. So let's get to this. Oh, also, real quick, I also listened to, while recently I've been listening to music, I stopped listening to music for a very long time, and I've just started doing it with this book by itself. But I am going to be listening to some music. I'll have own music for you guys to listen to that's copyright free, but I've been listening to this Outlander music. Look it up on, if you guys like relaxing music while you write or read or study, look up Outlander music on YouTube. I guarantee you it's work. So this is half an hour. So if it goes beyond that, I will just start it over and just listen to it over and over again as I'm writing, to not distract me while I'm writing. So I forgot one more thing. In this case, we were in the car, came up with some ideas, and so I have to add a few notes to this. Usually if I'm on my phone and I can't get to a computer, I will just write the notes and email myself. So in this case I was in the car, so I didn't want to text very much, so this is all voice to text, and then the second paragraph I was writing in the car, so there's probably a lot of mistakes, but I just wanted to establish a few things, and that's also some notes that I need to add to werewolf culture. So I wanted to add that real quick. All right, so now, finally, for the third and final time, let's get into this. guys. I listened to this whole thing once, and then it's been 3 minutes, so it's been about 33 minutes. It's 8:12. You guys have watched the time lapse, so I don't know exactly how long, because I don't remember when I started. But I finished this scene, which means I finished up this chapter. I'm thinking about writing the next chapter, but I also don't want to feel the pressure of being on camera, because sometimes that does give me a little bit of stage fright, and I did get the content I needed for this video, but I want to check the word count. So I did write the scene. It looks like I wrote 1,846 words, and we've reached 22,000 words in Forge of Silver Moonlight. I am so excited. I did notice as I was writing, I was having a few editing things that I wanted to edit and change, and this new concept of the wolves and how I'm building the werewolf, it's taking me a little bit to figure out the ins and outs of it. And as I was writing the fight scene, which I thought was pretty exciting, and it wasn't as big in scale as I wanted originally thought of, but the chapter has already been 3,000 words long, and so I didn't want it to be too long, and I only added that in there because I thought the other stuff was going to be shorter. I didn't expect yesterday's chapter to be so long, which is fine. But when I outline, I over outline to make sure I have enough content to bulk out the book as much as possible. And then, but anyways, so I didn't feel like it needed to be any longer than what it was. So I did have to pick out who the huntress was, which I had erased. It was perfect. The wild folk, or the derogatory term they called her was feral. So I felt like it just needed, I was going to have multiple hunters, and it was supposed to be 2 different fights. I combined them together, and I only did 1 huntress instead of multiple ones. I still included at least 1 trap. I don't feel like any more than that was necessary, and getting hit twice with an arrow in the back seemed okay. But as I was writing the fight scene, I realized this new concept of the werewolf and him having a separate entity made things awkward, because my original idea, the ideas that we came up with, today, was that he retreats to the back of his mind when the wolf takes over, until later on when he meets other werewolves and he kind of learns a little bit about it and stuff. So he's aware, but he just doesn't take control. But then when I was writing the fight scene, that made things awkward, because then he never fights. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's lazy. He just lets the wolf do all the work. And so it's the one that knows how to fight, not him. And so I wanted him to have moments where, he comes at, like, he's doing the fight himself. And I'm still not sure how I feel about this yet. I may go back and change some of this, because it's a little awkward with the duality of personality type things. It's not like it's a separate entity. He just hasn't accepted the wolf side of him yet. So I don't exactly know how I'm going to figure that out yet. But, so it needs some work, but that's what I wrote. The important thing is to get the ideas out of my head and onto the page, and I did. So this is future me. So I filmed the rest of the video. I even did the closing statements and all that stuff. And as I was talking, I've been thinking about that problem, the werewolf problem, and I started talking with the AI for help that I normally use. I use this AI called ChatGPT to help streamline my brainstorming process. It was no help whatsoever, and it even got my character's name wrong, even though I've told it multiple times his name is Keander. It changed his name to Gabriel, so I'm not sure what that was about. But I did my thing where I have this concept that I say, if you get stuck, just brain dump into the onto a page. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be there. So what I did was I just started typing about what I actually wanted and what I think about the werewolf nature and everything. And my problem with what I wrote and this new concept, this was like a really bad time for me to do this video, because it's like I'm trying to add in a new concept to the book and I don't know what I'm doing, but that also makes it a good video. So anyways, adding in this new wolf nature, my problem, as I mentioned before, is that I don't like that it's separate, because that means that he's not getting the fighting experience. He's just kind of, this isn't exactly how it is, but like my brain sees it as just, oh, he can retreat in the back of his mind and the wolf does all the work. The wolf is getting the fight experience. The wolf is doing this. And I wanted them to be one, but I like in his human form the duality. So the scene when they're, you know, in the crowd and the wolf is reacting and it's causing his body to react, and he's just kind of like you know, not sure what's going on, but I wanted it to be the same. So I was like, how can it be both? So I was thinking that it is actually just him. When he became a werewolf, there's his human side and then his wolf nature. And I was thinking, because he hasn't been trained, he's just been a gladiator, he's been surrounded by cages and violence, he hasn't learned or trained or anything like that. And so I was thinking that in his trauma, if you will, he sees it as a separate entity when it really isn't. It's his wolf nature that he hasn't accepted, because it is very raw, it is very primal, it is very feral and wild, and he doesn't like that. And so later on, that's an arc for him as well, on top of his other arcs in the book and all that, and the plot and everything. It's something that he has to come to accept, is that werewolf side of him. So I rewrote the ending, and that's why I'm inserting this here, is because I wanted to redo the ending of this chapter, show you guys what I wrote now, and I actually like it much better. So the original ending, hopefully I can take a screenshot of what I originally had. But essentially, this is what I have now. As soon as the taste of blood and the feel of his teeth piercing her flesh overwhelmed him, Kiander shuddered and mentally retreated into the back of his mind. He begged his body not to do it, but the wolf charged forward, and the primal instincts to tear into his prey wrested control. Kiander closed his eyes and disappeared into his mind, forced into submission by the wolf's savage nature, and the crowd loved it. So I feel like that shows the duality that I wanted to do. But we will discover, and this is kind of a minor spoiler, I don't think it's going to be a big part, so it's not like a huge thing, but eventually he will come to that realization that it is him, it is part of his nature, and he needs to come to accept that. So I wanted to just update you guys on that. But anyways, back to the main video. Hey guys, editing Joanna here. So I just wanted to come in and actually give some writing advice and not just do a writing time-lapse video. So I really want to talk about basically how I was writing in this chapter and I was introducing a new concept, and part of it, like for me, I have a big problem with, I feel like, picky about the story being complete before I even start writing it, because I am a planner, so I write very detailed outlines. Yeah, my outline for this is literally 24,391 words. So that's a novella, for those of you who don't know. So my outlines are always very detailed, so that is a good thing, but for me it's also a negative thing, because it has me it gives me this sense of my story has to be complete, and I feel very rigid in following the outline step by step. So if I introduce new concepts or if I stumble upon plot holes, I get really confused, like when I have to deal with that as I'm writing. And there's a really important, I say this a lot, so I've probably oversaid this, but the importance of writing your story is to get it out of your head. So when you're writing, it's just a first draft. Don't worry about people seeing it. Don't worry about the editing or how many mistakes you make or anything else. For a lot of people, there are those who would consider my outline the first draft, a rough draft basically, and just fill in the details, which is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. You write a first draft however you need to write a first draft, but the important thing is that you write the actual story, write the draft. So it's important not to get too caught up in making it perfect. And so for me, one of the problems that I had when I was writing this scene was the idea that I'm introducing this new concept with the werewolf and it's not working, and so I had to figure out a way to get it to work and to figure out his personality and all that stuff, and it felt weird and, you know, all of that, and that really hindered me, I feel like. So the important thing is to just get the story out of your head. The editing phase is the part of the story, or the part of developing a story. When you fix all those mistakes, you fill in the plot holes, the big story stuff, you fix all the grammar errors and stuff like that. When you have beta readers and editors and critique partners and people to help you and programs to help you, like Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, and when you self-edit as well, that is when you start working on developing your second draft and your third draft and however many drafts you need to make the story complete. So your story does not have to be perfect. And I would encourage you, and I would say that a lot of people, not everybody, but I would say that a lot of people who struggle with procrastination and not being able to write have that fear of perfectionism and the fear of not the story not being good enough, and that I feel like hinders a lot of people. And so I really, really want to encourage you to just write the story and just let it all out. And that's part of why these time lapses are good for authors like me, because it can be really intimidating. Like, I was really camera shy the first time I did a time lapse, which I'll put as a card here maybe. But I was really intimidated, and I was like, okay, I have to write perfectly because now I'm not just writing a draft, but somebody actually is reading it. See, the reassurance about writing a first draft is nobody's going to read it. So you can be as messy as you want. You can not use punctuation. You could literally use bullet points. You could, whatever technique works for you for your first draft, then do it. Just get the story out of your head and onto paper, or document in this case. That's the important thing. But when you're time lapsing like this, it's like, oh, people are reading my first draft. So I want to encourage you guys, and also mention to be a little lenient and stuff with because this is raw writing. So this is first draft writing. So obviously my writing's not perfect. There are probably mistakes you guys saw. There are definitely errors in the story and in the character that I need to fix. And in the couple of days since I first filmed that, I've had a couple days in hindsight to figure out what I did wrong and what needs to be adjusted. But I'm still writing the story. I'm on chapter 10 now. I just wrote chapter 10 tonight. Sorry about the noise of the air conditioner, but I'm on chapter 10, and I realized what I did wrong, but I'm not going to think about it, worry about it, go back and fix it. I'm just going to keep writing where I'm at now and keep going from there. So be encouraged. Don't feel like your first draft has to be perfect, and when you're writing, just write. Don't focus on, unless you have that really special, unique brain where you can edit as you write, which I sometimes did, as you probably picked up on a little bit. But the important thing is to get the story out of your head, and don't be intimidated. Like, don't let writing intimidate you, because a lot of writing, like, the first thing about writing is that you're doing it for yourself, and it should be for yourself, or God, of course, first. And so it should be for God and for yourself. And after that, then your readers, your family, your friends, whatever other motivations you have for writing the story. But you really want to write the story that you want and that you envision in your mind. So even if something sounds ridiculous, even if it doesn't seem to make sense, even if it's a little bit awkward, write it and see what happens. I know for me tonight in this scene that you guys just watched me write, I actually hated how he and the wolf had a duality. It worked really well in the marketplace stuff, but in the actual fighting, it was like, well, he took a back seat, he's getting lazy and can just sit there and let the wolf do all the fighting for him, which takes away from his experience. So I need to fix that. I came up with, after I think I stopped filming at that point, but I ended up having to brainstorm and come up with like reasons and explanations and fixing all of this problem. And so it's just like, I didn't like that, but just write and get it out, because I needed to get the scene out of my head where it was a fight, all that stuff. Everything else can be fixed later. It can always be changed. It can always be adjusted. It can always be, it can always be changed, adjusted, edited, fixed, deleted, rewritten, reworked, yada yada. Like, you get the idea. So keep writing, don't give up, and I hope that this video has helped you. Before we close, I have a special shout out. So this video has come from a collaboration of authors like me who are also YouTubers, and we're also all Christians, and we wanted to help each other out, promote each other's work, like YouTube channels. And I really want to encourage you, because they all did or will be doing videos like this. So at the time that this is going live, this is getting posted, it's Monday. So there's a new one every video this week. So I encourage you to go check out their channels and subscribe. I will have links to all of their channels down below in the comments, and I will have links to all of their Instagrams down below as well. So follow them, subscribe to their YouTube channels, and follow them on Instagram. And really be sure to subscribe to all of their channels, because they will be posting their collaborations this week, so you do not want to miss them. So here are my shout outs and fellow authors a part of this wonderful collaboration. Okay, so here are the shout outs. First up, we have Kimmy K. It's at Kimmy K456 on YouTube. Again, I will have all the links in the description below. So shout out to Kimmy K. Then there is Karina's Adventures. So at Karina's Adventures, it's Careenas and then Adventures. So again, links in the description below. Karina's Adventures. Shout out to you, Karina. And then there's Nikki Florica, and it's at Nikki Florica 8783. So NIKIFLORICA and then 8783. So shout out to Nikki. Then there is McKenna Rowell. So at McKenna Rowell. So at and then McKennaRowell. Again, links in the description below. And then there's my wonderful friend Heather Pruitt. That's at hapruitt.analthalion. So that's at HAPRUITTANELTHALIEN. So Heather Pruitt, she's such an amazing author and a really good friend of mine. Shout out to her. And then last but not least, there's Effie Jo Stock. She's a wonderful author and another good friend of mine. So that's at Effie Jo Stock author. So at and then EFFIEJOESTOCK and then author. So shout out to every single author in this collaboration. I'm very excited to be working with all of you. So shout out to Kimmy, Karina, Nikki, McKenna, Heather, and Effie. I'm so excited to be collaborating with all of you guys, and I hope that this video has encouraged you and helped you and given you some great writing advice. So yeah, overall, I hope that you've enjoyed this video right with me. It's definitely been a little crazy trying to come up with like a new style of werewolves than I did in my Mystic series, so the writing was definitely a little weird for me. It was also a fight scene, which I actually liked developing the wild folk lady, and I feel like I could actually go to her perspective in a side story. Like, I'm kind of interested in that because she had like the plants. I don't know if she had powers or magic over it, but it seemed like the trees were helping her, and I thought it was cool that they had a set in the arena. And it's really exciting, and so I just got really into it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you had, please give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday. And if you liked this video, then please check out this video where I literally wrote a story in 30 seconds, and it goes up from there. So I highly suggest you check it out. You don't want to miss it.